Welcome back, everybody. This is the Vintage Sewing Machine Garage. I promised all of you, after making my video on the Neki BU Mira that I recently was able to purchase with a plan to overhaul and restore it, and I had mentioned to you all that it came in a table, and I promised that I would make a video on that table. And this is a first. It is the first time I have ever seen and or purchased what I consider to be the model of sewing machine table that is the largest and most expensive ever made in the vintage era. And while it does not have the same surface area as my blonde 1950s Singer fold out that I'm so enamored with, that table even did not cost what this one did. And I actually have a documentation to show it, and I'll basically show that to you guys and show you what the price came up to be. Now, this table did not, like all the other tables, did not come standard with the sewing machine. Neki, just like Singer and all the others, when they sold new sewing machines, they were really expensive, as I've talked about in a number of videos, and they did not include tables. They would often be sold as including the carry case, which was essentially a tray for the machine to sit in with a cover. They kind of look like hard shell suitcases, sort of, but not really. But anyway, that's what came standard, and they were ridiculously expensive on their own as sewing machines. But of course, when you went into the sewing dealer, there were all sorts of accessories, and one of the things you could purchase was a sewing machine table. Now, I've shown sewing machine tables over the years. You can look through my videos and you'll see all sorts of tables. Tables were often priced based on the size of the table, the kind of wood or wood veneer it was covered in, along with any special features that it might have had. Now, I don't know if any of you recall, but in another video, I think it was on a history or provenance, I showed this to you guys. This is a Neki brochure that I found some years ago, and I kept this because it was extremely important to me to be able to document something I had never seen. Now, finding prices on things like sewing machines is not always easy unless you see them advertised. In one of my videos, I think I showed a Kenmore, and you can see the price in the Sears catalog. But typically, sewing machines were sold through dealerships, and dealerships there were often MSRP prices, the manufacturer's suggested retail price, and then there was the price that maybe the dealer would negotiate with you. But they were not printed in brochures, just like automobiles. You can get a brochure for a car, and the price is not necessarily in the brochure. But anyway, I wanted you guys to see the table because in the past I've actually referenced, I think I maybe have referenced this model right here, but or maybe it was one of the others. But any of you who've seen the video where I showed this little brochure before, it's very fragile. It was a sales brochure. It wasn't any kind of archival piece. Notice it says, "At last, the Wonder Machine. Now you can sew everything." And it shows examples of what you can do with your machine. And on this, this side, it talks about Neki Magic can dress up you, your home, your family. And it makes sense when you see that tagline because people used to make so many of their own linens, whether it was what they were wearing or what they were putting in their home, things like draperies and slipcovers and so forth. Now, the real reason that I found this so important to keep, this brochure was not a brochure necessarily on just sewing machines. You see it's highlighting here, part of the brochure here is missing, and you can see one of the Neki models. This is the model that was being built before. This is the Neki BU. I believe this is the model that was before the BU mirror I have. But what I really found so valuable in this brochure is that, as I've mentioned in a prior video where I showed this, someone would have gotten this at the Neki dealer in 1952, 53, thereabouts. And when they found out what a sewing machine table cost, my theory is that they asked the salesperson, can you please write the prices down for these cabinets, because, I've got to think about this, or they had to go home and talk to their family or their spouse, because they were ridiculously expensive. And I don't know if it'll show up here very well in this light. We can try to, I think maybe you can see this. It was written in pencil. This particular one here was $306, $280. Maybe this one was because of the cabriole legs. Maybe that's why it was more. This is $299. This one here is looks like $229 maybe. This one is $305, and this one, the Deluxe Ultra Mac Daddy, it doesn't get any fancier. This model shows $379. Now, I think it's $379 or $372, excuse me. $7 was a lot of money difference back then. Now, it's not just Neki that had this model. You will see Singer versions of this model that are just as massive and just as impressive. And this is what you're looking at. This is a fairly close model to this one. It's the same size, and I'm going to guess that it was the same price. The main difference is that, unlike the one you see on the brochure here, let's see, this one has a different, if I zoom in here, you can see the little piece of decorative molding. This is straight instead of, this here has a little bit of an egg and dart motif. This one had to, it opened up like a leaf. It would open up, each piece would open up on either side. This model right here has a bowed front, and bow fronts on furniture typically would cost more. I can't tell for sure, but I think this might be cherry. It could be walnut, but I don't know the exact wood. But I took the price of $372, we'll just say $375, since this one has the bow front, and bow fronts would typically cost more. And then we'll add a little sales tax. So let's say we get it up to $380, $385, 1953. Again, those of us today are used to thinking, oh, okay, it's $385, I can handle that. Well, in 1953, 1952, when I go into the Consumer Price Index calculator, you can go in and figure out what this would cost in today's dollars, and it's pretty striking. I came up with $3,750, and let's just pretend that included tax. That is a ton of money for a table, and remember, it did not include the sewing machine. That was just the table. And again, you have 4 drawers. This is not a false front, by the way. There's no drawer here, because the machine, of course, folds down behind there. But you have 4 and 4. You have 8 complete drawers, and they're pretty darn deep, too, to hold all of your sewing notions and what have you. That is an amazing piece of furniture. Now, is it rare? Well, I don't know. I'm very, very careful when I toss that word around. I have never seen one of these. I've seen them for sale, but I've never purchased one. You don't see them often, and my theory is because not many people bought them. Would you spend close to $4,000 on a sewing table before you even bought the machine in 1952, 53, or in today's dollars? I'm not sure how many people would do that. Now, in addition to this, all of this wonderful storage that you got with this table, we'll come up here and take a look at the top. And unlike the model that I highlighted in the brochure, this particular model does something different. It has basically a panel, and you can see the little the tongue here. It goes into a groove and sort of rests here, and gives you with a flat surface. This piece, of course, opens like this, and I'll hold on, guys. I'm going to change the angle here so you can see this a little bit better. I really love the fact that the Necchi decal, the branding is right on there. And look, it says another Necchi cabinet. Let's see if I can get it to zoom in so you guys can read this. It's another Necchi cabinet for the world's finest sewing machine. And this again is a wonderful reference. I love the fact that this is here. Now, like many of the Necchis, this particular cabinet was set up with a knee control. And I'll get a better shot of that when I come around. But on this side, of course, you have a really, and this is quite heavy duty, some of the Kenmore cabinets had these, I don't know if the Singers did or not, but this is a very stout, strong spring, and it's here so that when the machine is lowered, when you go to pick it up, the spring assists you in having control when you lower the machine, but also bringing it up, because this Necchi weighs a ton. Now, I've got the spring sitting here because I don't have the machine in. And Necchi very conveniently, and I got to hold this down because it's very powerful, they put this little looks like an old screen door latch, if you know what I mean, and it holds that spring down. Here it is when the machine is in the table, and this little, there's a little roller here, and it actually rolls against the bottom of the machine, and that's, I mean, it is stout, guys. It is really stout. You don't want this spring to fly up and hit you because it's really strong. You can hear me straining to do it, to push it down. So I'm going to put the little latch, the little latch back in to hold it there. Let's see. I'll leave this up for a minute, and then I'm going to move around and show you guys the rest of the table and what's great about it and what drives me crazy about it. Let's see. Let me move some of this out of the way. Oh, by the way, you may have seen this little piece of wood. Anytime you're moving a table or you're dealing with a table, look for little pieces like this. This is a drawer stop, and the bottom left drawer goes all the way in because this had come off, and it was attached with glue originally. And I'm going to be gluing this back. I'll get the old glue off and simply put it, I'll reinstall it and it'll be fine. I'm so glad this is here. I could have made one, but it's nice that it's already there. And let's see, let's take another, I want you guys to kind of get a tour of the condition of the table. Parts of this table are in remarkable condition, and parts of it are sadly not. Okay, guys, I came around to the side. You can see the side of the table, the trim, and the back side is actually in gorgeous shape. And that's not surprising. And when I say the back, I'm talking about all these panels back here. Many times these sewing machine tables were put up against a wall, and that side, of course, was protected. While we're over here, let's go ahead and give you guys a nice close-up. You can see from this side, you can see the knee control. Now, unlike Singer, which had a very clever way of installing a foot pedal in a bracket, and then you could simply, it had a little lever, you could use it as a knee control. Necchi and White and most every other manufacturer did not do that. They either installed it to use for knee or for the foot. You had to make a choice. Singer gave you the option of doing either, which is kind of nice. But in any case, this controller here, which looks very similar to those that the White company used, and I'm seeing this looks like a string release right here. Strangely enough, this cord, as when I went to inspect it, yeah, it's older, but it's not been compromised. It's not dry rotted or cracked, surprisingly. But again, I'm going to need to inspect it further before I decide to keep it. I don't have to. I could always use a foot pedal, but in any case, we'll change the angle again, and I'll show you guys what is fortunate about this table and what really is unfortunate. Okay, guys, we're actually back here, back around to the front. Let's zoom back out. And I want you to see the front of the cabinet is in remarkable condition. No major scratches or gouges. It still has shine. I'm going to be taking Howard's Restore Finish to clean up any scuffs or nicks. And then I will be removing that Restore Finish. Remember, you got to remove that stuff. You don't leave it on because it will continue to soften your finish in a way you don't want. So anyway, the Restore Finish will come off, and then I'll be putting some of the feed and wax to polish it. And again, even over here on the right, you'll see, you know, like I say, a few spots here and there. It's not surprising. For example, right here on the corner, there's a couple of nicks, but those are going to clean up beautifully. What is going to be more of a challenge is unfortunate, but it happens. It happens, unfortunately, very often. So let's put this back, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Some of you have already noticed this. So a little bit about the history of this table. What I was able to find out is this. This table belonged, I suspect it had one owner, and the machine, which I've shown you guys in my, or will be showing you, the Neki BU Mira that came in this table, was beautifully cared for, right? Now, I suspect that the original owner had, you know, there was some wear here on the front because, you know, you can see where the person may have literally just been touching it. And on the very edges, you see a little bit of soiling, nothing major, nothing that wouldn't clean them up beautifully. But then when you look at the top, you can see the fact that people just don't appreciate these vintage sewing machine tables. Now I've changed the angle for all of you again because I wanted you to see the part that made me really sad. Oh, it is not unusual for the top of any sewing machine table to sometimes have, you know, more scratches, a little more wear than the rest of it because, again, it was used for sewing, and over the years people used it. Of course, after people quit sewing with their machines, a lot of times these tables were kept, often by the original owner, because they understood how precious these things were and how much they'd paid. But look at the top, guys. This table, and there's the story part, the original owner left. They left it behind. Either they moved or passed away, I'm not sure. And when that happened, the machine and the table were not thrown away. They were actually moved into a storage area, and they were left there amongst other things that were stored, not by the original owner. And someone decided to use this table as a storage bench, or who knows, maybe a workbench. Take a look. You'll see what it looks like white paint. It is. I'm hoping that it's water-based paint. If it is, the Restore Finish will get that off. And you see some light scuffing. That's not a problem. And then you see this. This is not just a scratch, it's a gouge. It goes right through the lacquer, right down into the wood. Here's another one. Again, the light scratches are not really a big deal. We can deal with those. Here's some, this looks like something got stuck on it, and it even looks like, it looks like a textured tape, like somebody put tape there, and God knows why they were doing it. I really don't know. And again, you guys have seen me restore tables before, and with light scratches, it's not that big a deal. Let's move this back up. But when we come over here, this entire side of this table is gouged. And the original owner, I know they didn't do this. I'm willing to bet they did not. But look at this. I mean, someone put something on top of this table, and they didn't even set it down. They just kind of put it on or dragged it off. Whoever was using this table to store things on didn't care about it. They didn't see it. They said, oh, some old desk, some old sewing table. They had no idea how valuable this table is and how valuable it was to the original purchaser. If they had any clue, maybe they would have taken a little bit better care of it. It wouldn't have taken much. I once purchased a treadle table, a very early, late 19th century, late 1800s, early 1900s Singer treadle. and it was wonderful. In fact, it was built before you could take the machine and lower it down into the cabinet. It was a treadle that had those wonderful brass grommets, and you would put the little cover, the little coffin covers on them. Well, someone had, and it was in beautiful shape, and then they put a plant on it, and they put a plant in a pot without a base, and they got water damage on it. So, any of us can we do the best we can to take care of our stuff, and sometimes, we're clumsy and we goof, and if you ever get any kind of liquids on a table, whether it's this or any other kind of furniture, if you move quickly, and I mean like lightning, you might be able to avert most of the damage. But this is carelessness. So now I have to decide. I can try the Restore Finish. I think Restore Finish is going to really help me out on quite a bit of this. But this deep stuff, if I use Restore Finish, it's possible that I'm going to end up with some really dark stain-colored scratches. Or the other option I have is to sand it. But remember, if I sand the top of the table, not the rest of the cabinet, just the tabletop, then I'm going to have to find a stain that's going to match it and then reseal it. And it's just so much extra work that did not have to happen. So anyway, to end on a positive note, after showing you guys this, this is, whether it was a Singer or in this case a Necchi, when it came to sewing machine tables in the vintage era, I believe, it's certainly from the brochure, and I'm going to assume that Singer and Necchi and White, all of the competitors, were fairly similar in price, right? Apples to apples. And whether it was a Singer or a Necchi or whom, if you bought this table to put your sewing machine in, you went for broke. You went for it, and money was no obstacle. Whoever did this was either wealthy or was willing to make payments for a long time. So let me know if any of you guys have one of these tables. Let me know if you made room for it and what you love about it, other than the storage, which is kind of obvious. Maybe you like having the extra width here. Again, I just look at this table and realize just how much money someone spent on it and cared for it all their lives. And I can't stand to. I don't know what they were going to do with it. It was sitting down in a basement. A dry basement, thankfully. There's no mildew or anything. So I don't know. I have to decide. I'm going to get this table fixed, and I may end up keeping the table. Not everyone wants a large sewing table, and I understand that. I think large sewing tables make wonderful surfaces for for sewing. But this is a table I think we're going to keep, and I'm expecting to sell the Necchi, although now I'm having to choose between the Necchi BU and my latest restoration, the Singer 403A. This always happens to me, guys. I find a machine, I think, okay, this is the one I want to keep, and then I find something that tempts me more. But anyway, I appreciate all of you watching, and again, please share if you have one of these ultra deluxe, spared no expense tables from the vintage era. Let me know. Let me know what. If you found it easy to find, if they're hard to find. I don't see them often because I don't think many people bought these. I don't think many people could have afforded to buy them. Occasionally you had somebody who just went for broke and said, oh, we're going for it. But anyway, I don't, like I say, I think there may have been a name of a person in there that might have been the owner at one point. And so I just want to, I'm going to fix the drawer stop. I'm going to give it the conditioning that I give all of my tables. And then I've got to decide if I'm just going to do the Howards on top here, or if I'm going to sand it down and at least just the top surface, not the rest of it. I really try to avoid that, but this table is so magnificent. I really want to bring it back and make it gorgeous again and undo, just out of respect for the original owner who must have loved it so much. What can you do? Not everyone appreciates what they have, and they're rough on it. But we're going to fix that, and we're gonna make it impressive as it must have been that day in 1952 in a Necchi dealer when someone went in and they had to have gotten sticker shock. So maybe the person that bought this one also went home with a brochure and had to think about it. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.